Last week, I shared what I've learned from making vintage hardcover junk journals over the years, what worked, what didn't, and what I'd do differently. So I'll link that video below for your reference. And today I'm putting that into practice. I'm taking apart one of my older journals, this Art Nouveau Beauty, and giving it a makeover. It's time to turn it into something I actually love. So I'll show you what I'm keeping, what I'm changing, and talk you through my process step by step. Welcome, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. So in last week's video, I shared that I was trying to create an open spine journal, and it was a complete fail in my opinion. Yes, you can see the spines, which are just beautiful, but on the flip side, look at this. I really dislike this binding and the gaps here and the flimsiness of the spine. It just doesn't work for me at all. Plus there are pages in here that I have joined with some fabric, the same fabric I used here. And the issue was that I put glue all over the fabric. And the result was that I have these double pages that just stick up because the glue is making this middle stripe so rigid that it won't even lie flat. So that just totally doesn't work for me. So I have 3 pages in this journal like this. So first I'm going to, this is really hard to take apart a journal that actually you love, but not all of the parts of it. Not easy. So I'm going to completely cut off these strips here. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think that was the hardest part. Now I don't think I can even take these off because I think they're, or maybe they should be glued down quite well. But if I can, then that would be even better. Oh, I can. Oh, that is a beautiful surprise. I was sure that this glue would have been stuck down forever. It's not a tragedy if I can't get these off, but I would prefer them to come off. See, this is why I do strength training. Do I take the whole thing off? I could also take the whole thing off. Maybe that's easier. Oh my goodness. Because actually, you know what? I don't like this anyway. I mean, I would have covered this with another fabric, but this is a lot easier, I think. Okay, let's do the same for the front. Yeah, much easier. And now we need to take these apart. I have to take these completely apart actually because I want to do something with this middle signature anyway. So let's just cut it all off. I think if you want to do this for a journal, it's good to have some emotional distance from it. So I've made this a couple of years ago. I don't think I could have done this right after I made the journal. I would have still been too emotionally connected, I think. Okay, so I glued the stripe of fabric down after I sewed the signatures in. Don't ask me why. Oh, Barbara, what did you do? Well, I know I didn't think I was going to take this journal apart, that's for sure. Wow, this is not easy. Okay, we need to think about what to do with this because the papers are beautiful. Okay, these are good to go. And let's clamp these so I don't lose the lineup of the holes. Okay, I will do the same for the other 2 signatures. Better to use a seam ripper, I think. So what do we learn from this? Never glue down fabric completely. So in my more recent journals, I have never done that. And here you see why. But how should you know if you've never tried it, right? The beauty of making journals is, for me anyway, that you learn something new with each journal you make. Unless you keep making the same thing, which I never do. Okay, so now we have to figure out what to do with these 3 spreads here. And I think the only thing I can do is to just completely get rid of this middle piece, because it just looks horrible, and we'll have to reattach them a different way. So let's just cut it off. Rip the band-aid off, so to say. Okay, so these pages are now more narrow, which is not a big deal. To this we can say thank you and bye-bye. So this one is a bit more difficult because it's weird to cut this off here, but let's just see. So to join these pages again, I am going to use fabric again, but this time we'll do it a little smarter. So I'm going to take this one because I think this one works really well with the colors I have going on here. And I might also use this one for the spine. I did also take out this one, which is beautiful as well, but I think it's a bit too distracting because I wanted this image to be the main focal point, and I think if I put these moths and butterflies on the spine, that is too distracting. So let's not use this gorgeous one. By the way, this one is Tim Holtz, and it's from the palette Yellow, and it's called Moths. And this one here is also Tim Holtz, and it's called Writing Specimen. And by the way, my fabric scissors broke again. They fell on the floor and the handle broke off, and I re-glued it with super glue, and you see how well that held. But actually they didn't cut well anymore anyway. I might just have to get a new pair. I'm going to cut 3 strips of this to connect our papers. And I will mention again, the source for the beautiful designer fabrics for Europe is linked below. It's a store in Germany. This is where I get all my beautiful designer fabrics. So I just realized I actually need 6 strips of fabric because I will do the front and the back. So now the big difference of what I'm going to do is I have my PVA glue here. I'm adding water. I want a smooth consistency, not too thin, not too thick, something like this. And the big difference is I will not be adding the glue to the fabric, but to the edge of the paper. So now, because there's no glue on the fabric itself, it's still very easy to fold the page. So same thing for the other side. Now I'm going to bend this and put the glue on the edge and not on the fabric. Much better. So I'll be doing the same thing for the other 2 papers. And maybe you have some glossy spots like I have right here because you've got some glue there. And what you can do is, after it's completely dried, because otherwise the paper will tear, you can take a glue eraser. You can look for these online or in your craft shop. They are actually called glue erasers, and they are for erasing glossy glue spots. So you gently go over the spot. Try not to tear your paper. And it's not glossy anymore. I mean, you still see that it's a bit dark here, but it's not glossy. So that's what counts. So we're going to have to forget all the weird holes that I have here, because since we had the 3 fabric strips, they are in weird places for me. So I want to make new holes. And anyway, I'm covering them up with this middle page so I won't see them anyway. And on the outside, we don't see any either. So we're going to have to completely redo this. Finally, we have this one. Okay, so we have our 3 signatures ready to go. Okay, let's put these to the side for now. We need to make a spine for this cover. As a base, I'm going to use this piece of Amazon packaging. Even though it is very thin, it is very, very sturdy and doesn't tear easily. And let's use the same fabric here for both the inside and the outside of our spine. So I'll cut 2 strips, just a little wider than my packaging paper. And in case you're wondering why I'm not using canvas this time, because that is my preferred spine base, is because I want to add cardstock panels to the insides here, and I want this to be as flat as possible. And the canvas, of course, adds a certain thickness to it. So I'm going to take my glue water mixture again and spread it across my paper. And then center that on my fabric, making sure that it does not stick out from the fabric. And then we do the same thing on the other side. So this will go in here. And then I'm going to put these 2 on top. This is one of those papers that I thought I would never ever use, but I actually think for this journal, it's perfection, right? So I'm so happy I kept it. I wish I could show you the paper pad, but I don't have the cover of it anymore. It's a really old one. So now the option is either to glue it in now and then sew in the signatures, or sew in the signatures first and then glue it in. I have tried both versions. I can't say one is better than the other, to be honest, but this time maybe I'll sew in the signatures first and then we'll glue it together. So there is no way around making a template for sewing in our signatures, unfortunately. So graph paper, we cut it down to the size of our spine. So here and here. So now we determine where the middle is. We have 14 squares across, so half would be 7. So that's for our middle signature, and then we have 1 on either side. And since our signatures are not very bulky, I'm going to add 1.5 centimeters between each signature, so that's 3 squares. So then we can fold it in half to determine where the middle is. And since it's right in between 2 lines, I'm actually going to move it up to a line because that's not going to make a difference. And then we can decide how far apart we want the holes to be. So I'll do 5 squares. I guess that's approximately 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. We mark where the top is, as always, super important. And we punch our holes where the lines meet with our awl. I'm just putting a piece of styrofoam underneath. This is very satisfying. Then we take our template and we fold it right where that middle line is, so in half, so that now we can take our signatures, put it right in the middle, tape it down with masking tape or washi tape. Just gonna put it on my arm a few times so it's not super sticky and doesn't tear my papers. I just want to make sure it's centered. So in my case, my template is a little bit larger than my pages, so I have to make sure that on each signature I put it exactly in the same spot. So I'm just going to mark it here so that I know this is the top edge. Otherwise the stitches are not going to line up. So then I make sure this is really inside the crease, and we can tape this down. And we punch our holes through the same holes. The hard thing is, through this fabric, it's kind of difficult to see where the holes are. So I'm making them, also on this one, it's very difficult to see. So I'm going to take my awl and make them as big as possible so that I have the best chance of seeing them. We do the same for the other two signatures, of course. And since we're not going to see the outside of the signature spines, I'm actually going to take a black marker and define those holes from the outside a bit more, because otherwise I think this is going to be super difficult. So I can really hardly see them. So let's choose an embroidery thread for sewing in our signatures. This one is dark. Not loving this one or this one. So I think either of these would work. I'll go with the green. So I'm going to choose a blunt needle. Makes it so much easier than using a pointy needle. So one that you would use for embroidery, for example, like this. So then I'm going to take 3 times the height of my pages per signature. Oh no, this is completely... I didn't want to take this apart. It's not cooperating. Okay, so 3 times the height of my book. Times 3. Maybe you have been yelling at the screen because it would be nice to also have holes in our spine, wouldn't it? Oh my goodness. And I think here as well, yeah, the holes are nearly impossible to see. So again, I'm going to make these as large as possible without stabbing my fingers, hopefully. Yeah, I think they're still very hard to see. You see here? I see them better than through the camera, but it's going to be tricky. Here on the back, we can now see them really well. Yay. Okay, so now we just start from the bottom on our first row and go in and out and in and out till we're at the top. Oh, I'm so happy I made those black dots. That was super helpful. Now, if you're a beginner, this might be a little bit frustrating at the beginning. It definitely takes some patience, but it's worth taking your time, not rushing it. Oops, pulling the thread tight in between, because the last thing you want are loose signatures after all the work you've put in. So once we're on top, again, I'm just gonna make sure it's nice and tight. And then we just go down again in the same holes, making sure not to pierce the thread. Because if we do, we're not going to be able to pull the thread tight. Which is also why it really helps to have a blunt needle, because you're much less likely to pierce your thread. Once we get to the second to last hole, we can take out the needle. Again, make sure it's nice and tight, and then just tie a double knot. I like to have the knot right at the second to lowest hole, but you can have it anywhere really. I should have left the end a little bit longer. And once you're sure it's nice and tight here, you can snip off the ends. Okay, our first one is done. Yay. Okay, 2 more to go. So all 3 signatures are in. They look great. Now I have something in between the signatures. I like that a lot more than having those holes. So now all we have to do is glue this onto our panels. So use your strongest glue. I'll use the Beacon 3-in-1 glue. It's not my favorite glue, but it's strong. So I'm adding approximately 1 centimeter to each side. Let's first do one side. And then the other. Let's take a bone folder to really press this down, burnish it down. And then we can add our panels. Let's just hold this together. I have inked up the edges with walnut stain. So this definitely is going to take some time to dry. So we'll add some weights to that. So it's the next day and I have let everything dry overnight completely. So now we have a beautifully bound journal. Everything is where it should be. There's no weird gaps. It is a much sturdier spine, although it is not as sturdy as a spine made with canvas in between, like in this owl journal. This one is really, really sturdy, and this one here is still a little softer. It's just a preference choice, I guess. And also the middle pages here, where we added a new piece of fabric that we didn't glue all the way in the middle, now lay flat. So I would say it was so worth to redo this journal, because now every time I will look at it, it will make me happy instead of unhappy. So maybe some of your journals need a makeover and a little more love. I hope this video gave you the right inspiration for that. Love you guys. Mwah! Mwah!